Good morning. I'm Rosemary DiTrolio, and you're listening to The Lightwalker's Path. It's a place to develop new insights, find your soul's purpose, hear enlightening conversation, and be inspired. Good morning. I'm your host, Rosemary DiTrolio, and this is The Lightwalker's Path, streaming on multiple platforms. Join me every Tuesday at 10 Eastern to develop new insights and your soul's purpose. The Lightwalker's Place is a great place for discussions, inspiration, and a wonderful place to ask your questions. You can find replays on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many streaming platforms. Today's segment is about spirits among us, and we're going to delve into the concept of mediums, and I have a wonderful guest today. His name is Chris Lippincott, the Montclair medium, another New Jersey person, yay. And I'm so excited to speak to him. He's the author of Spirits Beside Us, and I've worked with Chris for 2 sessions, and I'm very impressed with what he can do. And I know you'll love hearing his answers and this discussion today. So I'm going to welcome Chris to join us. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hey, Rosemary, how are you? Great being here.
Good. I'm so happy that you're able to join me today. I'm really interested to ask your input on a couple things that I discussed on my last podcast. We were talking about the concept of like what a medium is, what like I told them what I do, which is different. But people always say, "Can you contact my cousin? Can you talk to my aunt?" And I say, "Well, that's what mediums do." But I want you to explain in your words what mediums do.
Sure. Essentially, what mediums do is that we're in connection with those people who have transitioned to the non-physical realm. They've, quote unquote, died in their physical body, but their energy still exists, still remains. So what mediums do is we're connecting with their non-physical existence. They're still quite alive and they're still here. They're still with us. And so what mediums are doing is we're using our non-physical energy, our non-physical senses, because everybody has non-physical senses. It's just a question of have we been able to learn them, use them, that they're sitting in our hindbrain, but mediums are just using and utilizing that ability, that
Mm-hmm.
non-physical sense to connect with the spirit. And spirit's always trying to get their messages through us. I mean, we're not, for example, I'm nothing but a relay station. I'm nothing but a telephone booth. That's what I tell my clients. I'm like, it's not me, it's spirit. They're doing all the heavy lifting. So we're just basically relaying all the information that spirit's giving us through our non-physical senses, whether that's, clairvoyance with our, what we can see in our mind, or what we can hear, or what we can feel, what we can sense, what we can suddenly know or become aware of from, spirit's information. We're just relaying that information to the recipient from spirit, because we're just basically that link. We're that go-between, if you will, because spirit's coming through to try to bring through their love. They're trying to bring through their healing. They're trying to bring through whatever it is that they can to connect with their loved ones here in the physical, and so we're basically serving spirit to create that link.
Right, right. Awesome. So, I always ask people that I talk to, have you had this gift as a child? And I know that you have. So I'm going to ask you, did you tell anybody when you were younger? Did you tell your parents? Did you hide it like I did when I had these abilities? Um, and how did you experience spirit when you were a child or a youngster? What did you
Yeah,
experience?
a great question. I'd say yes to all those.
Okay, cool. I want to hear it.
um, to start off with, yes, absolutely. When I was a child, just like all children, I was very much in contact with spirit, but I just didn't know what it was. To me, they were just these fantasy playmates, and I was talking to the trees, I was talking to the energy, and I started talking to these people that I thought everybody could see. I was just talking to them. And the funny thing was, because I was an only child, I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is my imagination. I'm just, I'm talking to these fantasy people. It's got to be in my mind, right? Of course, hindsight is 2020, because looking back, I should have realized that at the time when they could have full on conversations back to me, and I could speak with them. I should have realized something was just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Uh, I was very hyperactive as a child. Who knows? Maybe I had ADHD. I don't know, but I was just very energetic with these people. And even as a child, when I would try to go to bed at night, sometimes I would feel a soft hand on my back, which of course as a
Mm.
child scares the bejesus out of me. I'm like, oh my God, here come the monsters. They're gonna, take me
Oh,
away to their lair, right? Because I didn't know what it was. To me, it was like a ghost story or a Hollywood movie or something, or they're coming out of the closet and take me away. I didn't know. Or sometimes I would hear voices in my room, and I was the
mm,
only child. My parents were at the other end of the house. We're in,
uh,
the rural hinterlands where there's nobody else, can't hear anything. And so I'd hear these voices and I had these connections, or sometimes spirit would come around and I'd feel their energy wrapping around me in like this effervescent champagne like blanket.
mm,
And I wouldn't know what it was. So again, I just freak out. So for the longest time, I'd be connecting with them without a full understanding of what it was. And so over time, as I got older, my logical mind, rational mind started to kick in. I'm like, oh, I can't, deal with that childhood
mm.
falderall, and I'd suppress it and I'd kick it away, and I'd try to say, oh, this isn't, something I want to do. And so I became very materialist, very logical, very analytical. I mean, I grew up in a household that was very agnostic. My parents were,
Oh,
yeah, they were like, that stuff is just kind of, for the birds. Yeah, none of that. Clearly no real religious I don't want to say training, but background, because they weren't very religious whatsoever. And there were a couple of times I'd run up to them, absolutely, like I said, scared to death, and they'd
sure.
say, "What's wrong?" And I try to explain it to them, and they look at me like I had three heads. Like, what are you talking about? So I quickly realized, okay, this is not
Yeah,
something
you gotta shut it down. Yeah.
I bring up. So that was kind of my experience. And so as I got older, I shut it down. And I can remember my 20s, 30s, maybe. I would always feel this sense of something behind me. And
Mm,
I was still aware that they were there, but I was thinking, oh, this is I'm a grown adult who's
yeah.
scared of the dark. I'm thinking I'm scared of the dark. I'm like, oh, what happened to me? It's got to be some Freudian thing in my childhood. I'm thinking I'm all messed up. I'm thinking, oh, this is crazy. But I'm still sensing them. And then of course I go off to Wall Street. I'm trying to make my career, and like, oh, this is fantastic. Here I go. But then I started getting really, really stressed out. No surprise, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I started getting
Flush
really
out a
suppressed.
gift, it wants to come out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at work. I'm getting stressed out at my job. Fast forward to 30s, 40s, whatever. I'm getting really stressed out at work, and I'm like, okay, how can I de-stress? How can I reduce all that stress that I'm
Mhm.
dealing with? And so somehow I came across the concept of meditation.
Invitation. Yeah, I was gonna say they led you right to it.
Well, that was what was so
That's
funny
it.
is that, I mean, you bring up a great point, because throughout all this time, after I just basically said, "Go away, go away, go away," and certainly they did, and yeah, they said, "Okay, well, we'll deal with you on our own
Yeah.
time. We won't let you go fully,"
Mhm.
because Spirit basically had a different agenda than I did, and they led me by the nose as they started dropping all their breadcrumbs in front of me. Because to your point,
Uh-huh.
they started dropping all these book titles and all these concepts in front of me. And for some reason, I had this voracious appetite to learn everything
Mm.
there was about, the non-physical world, the spirit world. And I didn't know why. My father died when I was 18, which
Mm.
totally shook me up. I'm like, okay, I got to reality is now changed. My world is now different. Before it was like, none of this stuff exists. Then all of a sudden my father dies when I'm 18. I'm like, Toto, we're not in
Wow.
Kansas anymore. I got to totally understand this differently, but that I didn't fully buy into it. I'm like, well, the door kind of partially open. I'm like, eh. Then my mother died when I was around 30. That's when everything just kind of like fell apart. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, the reality as we know it and existence as I know it means nothing. And that's when all of a sudden, I had that sense of like, I got to de-stress. I got to find something that is going to help me relax and chill out. So I'm at, I'm still on Wall Street and I'm still trying to find this thing, and I stumble across this concept called meditation. I'm thinking, meditation? Isn't that people who are off in the Himalayas somewhere? Don't I have to be like some guru? I'm like, no, I can't do that. But I eventually I stumbled after doing some search and coming across some rather strange things. It didn't
Mhm.
sit well with me. Eventually, I came across a couple of tracks, one specific track that I just fell in love with. And I kept listening to it every single day before work, for about 10 or 15 minutes. And it was like, it was so soothing. Didn't have an agenda. There was this really relaxing. I'm like, oh, this is great. So I'm doing that for, 10 or 15 minutes. And then the next thing I realize I'm doing this every day for 12 months. I'm like, wow, this is great.
Oh,
And at the end of that 12-month period, that's all of a sudden when I had my spiritual awakening. And that's when the portal totally reopened. I'm like,
oh
so,
wow. I'm
so
getting
that was,
chills. So at that moment, did you all of a sudden like realize it was really there? Did you feel spirit? Did you see it? Or was it third eye, like kind of a knowing for you?
yeah, it's a great question. It was in my, I guess let me describe my spiritual awakening. What happened is that, I'm there in my man cave, because every guy's got to have his man cave, right? So I'm there, and I go into this deep meditation, probably 30 minutes long. I'm just completely gone. It's like a Saturday morning or something. And I'm going deeper and deeper and deeper. And next thing I know there are these four spirit people in my mind's eye, more sort of like in a silhouette form.
Mm.
And there are kind of two on my left, two on my right. And somehow I remember, I recognize them. I didn't know why.
Yeah, your soul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They seem very familiar, but I'm like, I don't know who you are. I don't know why I recognize you, but you feel like I recognize you somehow. And the person all the way on the right-hand side felt like the biggest, looked like the biggest, seemed like the biggest, most powerful person there. And that person, surprisingly enough, shot like a beam of energy right through my chest, out through my back, which I felt physically, which kind of shocked me. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not asleep or dreaming right now. This is real, which completely threw me. And as that happened, that's when I sort of had this out of body experience where I was taken into some place. I can only think of as sort of imagine it like you're in outer space somewhere. And as I'm in this outer realm somewhere, I became very cognizant of this overpowering feeling of unconditional love. And when I use the word love, the human word love is really only the tip 1% of the iceberg that you might see floating above the water. This was the other 99% of that word that you don't see, that we don't experience. This was so far beyond the word that we ever know. This blew my mind. I couldn't even put words to it. It was so powerful. And I just felt like connected to it. And I felt, I guess I've described it before, as sort of like a tapestry. It was like this
Right.
tapestry that just sort of had no ending, no beginning, and I was kind of like a little thread into
Yeah.
that,
Mm-hmm.
and it was overpowering. And I remember this, I don't know if it was a voice or this awareness that suddenly I was perfect. And I remember thinking to myself, wait a second, there's no way I could possibly be perfect. You don't know what I've done in my life. And it just kept on coming. You're perfect, and it's unconditional love, and I would just I couldn't explain it. And then eventually I kind of come out of this experience, and next thing I know, I'm just like, wow! I run to my desk, write everything down that I can possibly remember, and then within the next few days, it's like that was when the portal reopened. I remember feeling all that effervescent energy wrapping around me again. I was suddenly aware of people all around me. I couldn't see them, but I could feel them. I knew they were there, and I suddenly had all these vivid dream visitations from all these different people. And a dream visitation is so different because you can remember it and all the details in it for years down the road. Like unlike a normal dream where you can't even remember what happened.
Right. Wow. That's quite amazing. We're going to have a sponsor break in about a minute, but I'm so excited to hear that because I remember, you were saying you went through that voracious time when you're reading, reading, reading. I went through that at like age 29, age 30. So, I get that. And then, of course, like they lead you to what you're supposed to be doing, which is also what happened to me. So that was really cool. So for my listeners, please stay with me because we have two more segments coming up and more exciting conversation. So come right back to Lightwalker's Path, and we'll be here waiting for you. So keep that in mind if you have a burning question and you want to ask Chris or I. It'd be a great opportunity for you. So very cool. So I've got more questions for you once we return about what you did next. Like, did you just leave your job? Did you jump right in? Did you tell your wife? Like, because I have a story too. All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is the Lightwalker's Path, and my guest today is Chris Lippincott. And the first segment we were speaking about Chris's awakening and his childhood and how he had these spiritual gifts that he could not deny as an adult. So I'm going to ask you, Chris, did you tell your wife or your kids, or did you kind of like closet hide it like I did for a while when I was channeling my angels? So what was your experience with it?
Great question. Yes, again, in the beginning, I didn't really know what was happening. For the longest time, I thought to myself, actually in the very beginning, I was really starting to get concerned because I was of two minds. I thought to myself, well, people who can connect with spirit are either incredible gurus or they're completely crazy. Well, I know I'm not a guru. Oh my God, I'm crazy. So I thought to
Yeah.
myself, I'm crazy. I'm like, oh no, what's happening to me? So I didn't tell anybody. I'm like, oh, this is horrible. Oh my gosh. Um, but then I started trying to learn more and more about it. And then eventually I started following up on it, and I started realizing, oh wow, this really is a connection with the spirit. And then over time, as I worked with it, I started realizing it's mediumship. It's meant for the greater good, and I started taking classes and developing it. And over time, I started realizing that's exactly what it is. That's why
Uh,
spirit has come back to connect with me. And as I started doing that, I started slowly accepting that, yeah, there's something there. There's a reason why spirit's trying to work with me. And as that started to happen, I started to become slowly more comfortable and slowly kind of, allowing it to seep into my skin and own it. And that's when I started slowly dripping little bits and pieces to my wife.
Dipping a little
It
bit in,
was,
I get it.
yeah, it was like a little,
A
like a
little,
dropper
just a
at a
little.
time because she was very much like I was. She was very logical, very materialistic, very this is the way
Uh-huh.
life is. So I was like, how? There's no way
How do
she's
you
going to
say
accept
it?
this.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had to drip it. I had to sort of like saying, okay, well, I had this kind of odd experience, and I kind of had this, and I'm kind of doing
Mhm.
this, and every so often I had to check in to kind of see what her response was,
Yes,
and
yes.
the more I would talk about it, the more you could see that she would start
Curiosity.
to, yeah, there's curiosity, and the
Uh-huh.
window would slowly open up. So it took a while, but
Yeah,
it's like what's the how water can drip and eventually it'll
yes,
erode an
yes.
entire rock.
That
That's basically what
exactly.
was happening. Now, my son, who is an engineering student at
Oh boy.
NYU, still has not accepted it. He's like, "There's no way you're not talking to
Uh-huh.
the big man in the sky. Oh, you're so full of it." That kind of stuff. But you can see there's a curiosity. He's like, because
Yeah.
I've given reading to a couple of his friends, and he's like, huh,
Oh,
maybe there's
yeah.
something. But I don't think he wants to accept it quite yet. But he's young,
Yeah.
so
He
that's okay.
wants to, but yeah,
Um,
it takes time. It takes time. They
yeah,
have to see it.
I'm not gonna force him, but yeah, that was so it did take a while, and there were still times where I wouldn't tell people at work. I'd only tell select people because hell, on
Mhm.
On Wall Street, you mention something like that, they're like, "You're fired."
Yeah, right, right. It's like, okay, what's going
Yeah,
on?
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
so
was.
eventually,
I
yeah.
understand. I understand, Chris. I was a school teacher for well, 32 years actually, but I was doing my business as well, so I was channeling and meeting people in my area while I was teaching in a public school, and I kept the two really separate. Same reason, but people started finding out they were going to my classes and everything, but they're all whispering about it. So I totally get it. You don't want to appear like you're out of your mind, but
Right,
you know what
right.
you know. They just haven't had the same experiences, right?
Totally, yeah, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, unless they've gone through it, or unless they've had their own experiences, or unless they've had other experiences through perhaps another medium, or their some kind of experience in that genre, it's very difficult for a person to really
Oh,
fully
sure.
embrace it.
That's right. That's right. So I want to ask you too about the concept because last week I was speaking about a soul that crosses over or a ghost that gets kind of stuck and doesn't go through the tunnel. So I want your opinion of like ghost energy and do you cross them over or do you just are you able to or have you communicated with people that were stuck? And what's the difference between, your loved ones that cross over and these what we call ghost or what people call a ghost?
Okay. From what I've understood, and from it's my belief that ghosts are just nothing but residual energy. So all spirits cross over into a non-physical existence. So it's
Mhm.
just a question of where do they wind up.
Right.
It's a question of, do they get to a plane of existence where they're accepting full love and light, or
There
do they not feel that they are worthy of love,
mhm,
so they wind up in a plane that is not filled with light.
mhm.
So they're always connecting. They're always transforming. They're always crossing over, if you will,
Yeah,
because it's not like there's a space where they're just going to kind of get locked. But
right, right.
what does happen is that the lower the plane they're in, the closer they are to the physical. So
Yeah,
we'll be able to connect with them as a physical being because we're in the physical and they're in a lower vibration. So they're closer to
mm,
our lower vibration. So we're able to sense them, see them, which is why many times we'll see somebody who often refer to the word is quote unquote ghost. Well, but it's really
right.
more of a residual energy that we can still see and
Well,
detect. And
it's
so I
exactly
don't.
right. I'm sorry. You just confirmed something that I believed as well about the buoyant energy and that the lower astral is where like that we call ghost is kind of stuck because they're heavy and buoyant and not buoyant and the lighter and more light they have, the more they're able to move out from that realm. So
Right.
thank you. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry I
Yeah.
didn't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt you.
no,
Go ahead.
no worries.
Continue.
It's yeah, because when you look at the structure of the spirit realm, it's basically a structure of seven
Right.
different planes,
Yeah.
and the majority of people who transition are going to transition on to the second plane, which is referred to as the plane of familiarity, which
Mm,
looks exactly like the earth world that we know and love right now. It's got grass and buildings and houses and
yeah.
people, and
Yeah.
that's why so many people who get there, they're like, wait a second, I can't have died. This looks exactly like where I just left. But that's the whole
Right.
point, is that
Right.
it's an evolution, not a revolution. So spiritual energy is meant to evolve, just like
Right.
we evolve. And that's why the state of consciousness, the stream of consciousness, literally continues ad infinitum, just the way we are now. And so people are,
Mm,
when they cross over, they're like, "What just happened? This is so weird." And that they think it's a dream, they're
Yes.
met by people on the other side. It's like, hey, congratulations, welcome home, you're back, and they're like, I welcome home. I haven't left. But
That my father told me that when he crossed over, like that was a dream. He said, "I just closed my eyes and I was here,"
yeah,
and
exactly.
he confirmed to me all this information as well. And I've even seen, like when I was a kid, I went to the realm where all the grass is and the people and the animals and everything, and I was able to see that. My guide showed me that, and also
Hmm.
where the stuck ones are. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
really cool to hear. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so a lot of, I won't say a lot, but I'll say some people who are trying to work with those spirit people who have not fully gone into a higher realm and are closer to our realm. They're often trying to help people to move on because we are that much closer to those lower level, lower vibration spirit people. And so we actually have more of a capability to connect with them and to convince them to move towards a level where there's greater love, greater light, and to accept that love because they'll hear us more than they're going to hear their own spirit people. So
Right.
that's why you get so many people who are
Yes.
focusing on helping others to cross further into the light, further into the planes. And so obviously there's a progression, from the first to the second to the third, etc.,
Yeah.
all the way up.
So you don't, that's not part of what you do,
No,
right? You work
no, because
mainly
I
with the
only,
ones
right.
that have
I,
crossed,
right. I only
right?
focus on the those people who are in light, in
Right.
love, because
Mhm.
that's where my vibration's always been
Me
focused.
too.
It's
Too. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I know that your vibration has to maintain that high clarity to be able to do what you do and not like bring them home with you. You want to be separate from the energies that be, but you want to connect with them while
right.
you're there, right?
Yeah,
So that's
I've I very definitively let my
yes.
guides and let everybody else know.
Uh-huh.
I said, listen, guys, I've got a store. When the light is says open for business, that's when we
That's
work. When I close the door and I say close your business, we're not working anymore.
absolutely. I had a conversation with a person that's going to be a client, and she was talking about she's a very open medium. So I actually told her about you. I said, contact Chris, but she's really, really open. And what I said to her was, this girl's channeling all the time. Like at night, I'm like, no, you've got to set your parameters.
Mm-mm.
This is you have to tell them this is, I'll only work with you between the hours of, only outside and not in my home and whatever.
Right.
Because if you're really open, it's like all the windows and doors are open. You're just inviting
Yeah.
everything in, and
Well,
it's exhausting and not helpful.
exactly. It's exhausting
Yeah,
because because you never have a chance to ground.
that's
And you
right.
need to
That's
be
right.
grounded. You're here on
Absolutely.
this life, this earth, to be grounded and to live your life. You're not here on earth to not be connected to earth and not be connected to your life and learn all the experiences. That's why we're here. We're here to have
Yeah,
experiences, not to be a spirit.
absolutely. If someone has these kind of abilities, and I know a lot of people do, we got 1 minute and we're going to break again, but I want you to think about this for after the break. If someone has a lot of these beginning abilities and they don't understand them, what would be your first advice for them to do before they start sitting in graveyards trying to talk to people? Like what's the thing they should be doing and not that?
Yeah, well,
Okay,
they
so I want
certainly don't need to be going to graveyards, I'll tell you that.
no, 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 no. So yeah, so like, what would be your first thing that you would do, and also what's the main thing that you do when you help your clients? So I'm going to come back to that. We're breaking in about a minute, looks like 30 seconds. So that will be the next thing. And also, I'm going to also ask you about trance mediumship, which I know that you also do, and what that
Hmm.
is, and how you would do that. Okay, so
Sure.
keep those questions in mind. For those of you that are listening, get a drink of water, come right back. Don't leave us. We have another segment coming up, and I don't want you to miss this. Welcome back. This is the Lightwalker's Path. Grow Your Spirit with Rosemary, and my guest Chris Lippincott, who's a medium from Montclair, New Jersey, and we're having a wonderful conversation. And before the break, I had asked him, what is trance mediumship, and to tell us about that, and anything else that comes to mind that I mentioned. Okay, go
Sure.
to it, Chris.
All right. Yeah, about trance mediumship, that's one of the things I absolutely love doing trance mediumship. So let me kind of explain what trance mediumship is. Trance mediumship is when a medium, me for example, I'll go into a state where I'm stepping away from myself. I'm allowing myself to go into an altered state where I take my consciousness so low and relaxed to the point that I'm not really aware, I'm not really thinking, I'm not really quote unquote here anymore.
Hmm.
I'm seeing myself as if I've stepped outside my body and I've gone over here, or I'm up there, or I'm just away somewhere. I'm not in here, right? And what I do is I open myself to my spirit guides who have learned to work with me. I've learned to work with them over the years. They'll come and step inside, blend with me, and as I go into trance and I go into that altered state and I'm outside myself, I just become their vessel. And spirit guides will come in and begin to speak through me. And they'll have their personality, their voice, their wisdom, their guidance speaks out to the audience, to the sitters, to the people who are out there, and it's through their personality. And there are typically 3 to 5 guides who frequently will come through to give their advice, their wisdom, their healing, their love, whatever it is that they know they need to give. And it's uncanny that they are talking about things that the recipient needed to hear, needed to know. And it's so transformational when they come through because they're talking about things that the recipient never spoke about, never mentioned, but this absolutely transforms them before your eyes. And when I come back, I'm like, I hope you enjoyed that, or hope that was, useful. Hope you liked that. And they're, after they're drying their face, they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And I have to go back and listen to the recording because I barely remember what they said.
So do you do that process when someone comes to you and says, Chris, I lost my so and so. Can you connect with them? That's a different process, right?
That's different. Yeah,
That's
right.
different. Yeah.
When I do evidential mediumship, I'll do evidential mediumship that connects to a recipient's loved one, mom, dad, parent, son, child, whatever it is, right? That's one thing where I'm connecting to an individual's loved one. Trance mediumship, I'm connecting to my guides. And my
Okay.
guides are discussing their philosophy, their teachings, their guidance to the audience,
Right.
to the particular recipient. So it's not so much a loved one, it's my guides that are speaking.
Very cool. There, we just had a question. Someone popped in. I don't know if you can see it on your screen as well, Chris,
No.
but someone said they're a medium, and they are from Arizona. Her name's Veronica, and she wanted to know whether it's true that spirits can attach to you after a reading if you don't clear them. I suppose the question is. So, do you
Well,
have that experience, or do you find it happens with people that are not trained?
that's a good point. I would say it happens more often if you're doing what we spoke about before the break, where you're not allowing your spirit team to be working in specific parameters and specific time
Right.
frames and specific areas. If you're just
Hmm.
open 24/7, then you're allowing spirit to work with you and be connecting with you all the time. You got to set a set time
Hmm.
limit and say, listen, this is when my store is open. You'll see this. My
Yeah,
store is the sign says I'm ready to work with you, and you'll see there's a time when I'm closed down. So you've got to
absolutely.
open and you've got to close. That's very definitive because if you don't set those limits, then you are opening yourself to a
Anything.
time where you're just like, it's like, hey guys, let's work together. My chakras are completely open. I'm allowing you to do whatever and whenever, and you'll disturb my sleep, and I'll never get any sleep. So
Absolutely.
it's just a matter of training. It's a matter of understanding. It's not like people are going to attach. it's going to be more like you're inviting them in, because
Yeah,
spirit cannot influence our, and it can't influence us at all. All they can do is work with our free will. It's like if we open them and we allow them in, then they're in.
absolutely. I do when I do any kind of channeling of my angels, I always set parameters of my guardian angel and the person's angel that's going to connect with me. And I have like gatekeepers and stuff as well. So I'm always very protected, but I always, release it when I'm done and make sure that I say, okay, I send you off with love and thank you for sharing your information,
Yeah.
but there's certain protocols we do to keep us protected,
The
and
example,
more
yeah, the,
safe, higher
I was, I,
vibration.
yeah, the example I would use would be, would you leave your door to your house open
Mhm.
24/7? No, you wouldn't. It's exactly the same
Right.
thing in mediumship. You either have your door open or you have your door shut. If you want to have your door open during business hours, great, come on in. If you want to
Mhm.
have your door shut after business hours, that's the concept. That way people can't come in
Absolutely.
all the time. It's this,
Absolutely.
think
It
of it
makes
like
so
a
much
like
sense,
shop.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. That's exactly the way I look at it too. Um, so let me just see here else. Okay, so I know you work with guides. Do you also work with the angel realm, or do you have a certain guide that's like your high sacred guide that always works with you
Mm.
before you connect?
Great question. What I've noticed is that uh, when I connect with my guides, they will come in at different points and times, and they come in based on when they're needed. So it's
Right.
not like I'm reaching out and saying, okay, well, I
Yeah.
want so and so. They're the ones who come in. And I do notice that every so often there's an incredibly high vibration guide who comes in who makes me feel like I am just surrounded by the most intense
Love.
love. It makes me
Hmm.
feel like an angelic being. I don't know if it is an angel. I have no idea. I don't work with angels, but if I was to say it was an angel, that would be the person who comes closest to it, because it feels like a woman, and when she comes through, not only do I feel that love, but the energy of love is so powerful and so tangible that the recipient's going, "Oh my
Yeah.
God." They're bowled over by this energy of love. And
Absolutely.
I'm like, wow, that's
That's the
amazing.
angels. That it definitely is, because when they come in for me, even when I'm channeling or doing my communication classes with Angel Connection, people get like cold chilies, and we get like almost like a simultaneous rush of energy in the room that you feel like it's tangible, and it makes people cry because it's just like you don't feel that kind of love on this earth in that way. So it's
Right, and
it's really a
that was very
beautiful
similar to
experience.
that was a similar feeling when, like I was telling you, when I had my spiritual awakening. It was just like this intense 99% of energy of love that I had never experienced. That's the, below the surface iceberg concept. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was just so powerful.
Yes. Okay. So the other thing I was going to ask you is when you walk in a room, and I've done this too, going past a house. Do you know, like, can you feel like the energy if there's either stuck energy in there, like people wise, or let's say a relative's hanging out at someone's house and wants to chat. So I'm asking you this because when I was new at doing my channeling, like years ago, I would go in the store and I would feel people's energy and I'd be able to read them, but I don't want to. So I'd literally have to shut down my third eye because it's not my business. So, do you have that experience, or early on, did you have that experience where you were being bombarded with stuff that you really didn't want to know at the time, like in a store or at a house, visiting
No,
friends?
no, because again, it goes to that concept of being open and being closed. So when I go someplace, I open up, or
Yes,
I go someplace, I don't open up. It's all
right.
intention, and that's,
Yes.
I want to. That's perhaps the biggest word I could use here
Mhm.
for the whole conversation. Is it's all about intention. When you set your intention, that's when you are opening the portal. If you set the intention to connect, you'll connect. When you set the intention not to connect, you will not connect. So it's all about your intention. Set that intention.
Correct. I love that. Um, What else was I going to ask you? Oh, I talk about vibration and frequency. So what are I know we were talking about the best thing for new people to start out. So as far as raising vibration, what are some key things that you think raise vibration to allow people to expand their consciousness or to be ready to do any kind of spiritual gift opening that they are
Hmm.
wanting to do?
Okay, great question. The most important thing that anybody can do to raise their vibration, whether they're looking to connect with spirit and become a medium, or they just want to become more spiritual themselves, is to meditate.
Hmm.
Meditate as consistently as humanly possible. My recommendation would be to meditate every day because consistency is more important than duration. So even if you meditate 5, maybe 10 minutes a day, that's all it takes. Go back
Right.
to my spiritual awakening. I only did it like 10 or 15 minutes every single day, but I did it for 12 months. And if you
Yeah.
think about it, in the UK, you're not allowed to join a spirit circle until you have sat in the power for 12 months straight. And sitting in the power is a very specific meditation. It's a visualization meditation, but you're also focusing on your own light, your own spirit within.
Mm-hmm.
And as you begin to expand that spirit light, you're connecting to outside. Eventually, you're allowing your light to connect to spirit, to the divine, and it's an expansion. So sit in the power, sit in meditation, and just loving yourself and opening your chakras. As you
Right.
begin to open up each one of your chakras, do a chakra meditation, a chakra
Mhm.
opening meditation, and a metta meditation where you're saying, I am love. I send
Mhm.
love out. And it's that sensation of love, sensation of connecting to spirit, opening your entire system of chakras. That will help you lift your vibration and connect to the love of spirit.
Beautiful. Okay, we're coming up on a break and we'll be right back. If you're listening in, we've got one more quick segment at the end of the show. And I'm here with Chris, and we will look forward to seeing you in a few. Welcome back to the Walker's Path. My guest is Chris Lippincott, the Montclair medium, and we're very happy to see you again for our last little segment here. Chris, I want you to mention how people can contact you, your website address, and about your podcast coming up.
Sure, sure. Well, if people are interested in learning more about me, they can go to my website. It's montclairmedium.com. Pretty simple. Hopefully that it's understandable.
Okay.
Also, if they are interested in the podcast, we're launching a podcast on May 1st called Spirits Beside Us. And that's actually based on my book that I wrote, Spirits Beside Us, right here. So it's the same. I don't know if you can see it, but it's the
Mm-hmm.
same.
Beautiful.
It's the same concept, and I talk all about spirituality and spirit world, and my whole story. So that's really what the podcast is going to be about, and they'll have a lot of guests, and we'll talk about everything about spirit.
Beautiful. And you work on Zoom as well as in person with
Yes,
clients?
exactly. I work with people, around the world. That's why Zoom is so perfect. We
Awesome,
can I
right?
connect I connect
Yeah.
with people everywhere. So yes, people from
Yes.
around the world and locally, live in person.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. I know next week I'm going to be speaking on blueprints, past lives, and information in that realm. So before we wrap up, I want your opinion on like if you know any of your past lives or what your thought or idea is about that concept. So we have just a
Yeah,
couple more minutes.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we all live multiple lives, upwards of thousands of lives. In fact, I do past life readings for people, which is
Mhm.
really beautiful to see what happens. And yes, we all live multiple lives because we are here on an Earth School. We're here to learn from the experiences that we have. It's like telling the 5-year-old, don't touch that hot stove. Well, they're not going to listen to you until they've actually hit that hot stove and they have that experience, and they'll never do it again. That's how we learn. We learn through experiences. So we're in that Earth School. And we keep on doing that because we've got all these different lessons we want to learn. And so we keep on coming back to learn all these different lessons. And we travel in these soul band, the soul family, as we're all learning different roles. We're like actors, and we're all wearing different costumes. And one life you might be a mother, the next life you might be the ice cream man, the other life you might be the child, whatever it is. And we're just a roving band of actors, like Shakespeare said. All the world is a stage; we are merely actors upon it.
It's funny, Chris, because it's like you're in my brain, because when I do my angel communication class, that's exactly what I say. And I'm like, wow, I love the way the spirit it just connects with all of us that are trying to help people in different ways. And as far as like even past life, I do Akashic record reading as well. And it's so cool to hear your spin on how you do it, because I just love that. So I do hope people connect with you and find you, because you offer a wonderful healing modality for people that have lost people that they love. And I know it's quite painful when we do. So I appreciate what you do, and that you were so willing to come in and talk about your journey with me today. So I really appreciate it. And gosh, I'm so excited to hear your podcast. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I signed up already, so hopefully I'll make sure I'm right there listening. So
great.
Any last words for you, Chris, that you want to share with us before we wrap up?
I mean, any last words? I guess the biggest takeaway would be just know that your loved ones are still very much alive, and they have never just gone away poof into the clouds. They're still living right beside us, sharing our energy, sharing our space, and that when they come through, they're coming through with their love in an attempt to heal any of the pain that you might happen to have, because that's all they are, is pure love. And just know that they're still with you.
Yeah, I just thought of something real quick before we go. Like, oftentimes we dream of our loved ones, and I've had people ask me, and I know those are dream visits, but what can you say about like when you dream of a loved one? That
Yeah,
is a
a
visit.
dream visit. Yeah, a dream visitation is very specific. You'll know it's a visitation when
Feels
all
good.
the details are so tangible that,
Yeah,
and so memorable and so visceral that you'll remember every single detail that happened in that visitation for years on end. I mean, it's
it,
something that not even a
it feels
regular
real.
everyday waking moment. Oh, it's so real that, I mean, I can remember a dream I had, for example, with my dad years ago. I can still remember the smells and the details and the conversation and
Yeah,
everything. I mean, I can't
yeah,
have that with my regular mind. I mean, I'm losing
yeah.
my memory anyway.
Right. I was going to say I had the same experience, is that it feels different than a dream.
Very.
It's like time stands still for that time. So thank you
Hmm.
so much for sharing. We're about to got 2 minutes left of the broadcast. So I was excited to speak to you today and get your spin on the things that we both experienced, which a lot of similarities there.
Yep.
And I hope to see you again. And thank you so much for being my guest today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I'll have to have you on my podcast on May.
Would love. I got a lot of words, so anytime.
Great.
All right. Take care, Chris. It was nice seeing you today.
Well, Rosemary, thank you so much for having me on the show. It was such a pleasure.
You're welcome. Okay, take care.
Bye.
I'm your host, Rosemary DiTrolio, and you've been watching and listening to The Lightwalker's Path. Learn about my workshops, sessions, courses, and more at info@rosemaryd.com. My website, rosemaryd.com, Hands of Light by Rosemary. Have a blessed and beautiful day.